This is cs952 Introduction to Web Technologies and Design, and we've pretty much got most of our website down, so I'd like to work on just a little styling issue to maybe make the website just a little bit more interesting. So far, when we've been working with styling rules, we've always been using our CSS files, and we write styling rules that apply to every single page on our site. What if we wanted a rule that would apply to only one particular page on the site? So let me give you an example. I would like to add an interesting background color to the history page. So the way we've always done this is we go to CSS Designer, we click on our style sheet, we want to make sure we're in global, and then we look for our selector. If we look in our DOM panel that shows how our page is created, we have three parts to every web page, right? We have the navigation, that's the part at the top. And then we have the section, which has an ID of section, and that contains this editable region where we put all of our content. And then we have our footer, which has an ID of footer. So when we wrote style rules for our footer, we used this ID equals footer. That became the selector. And we used that footer selector to set the color, all those different things. So we would use this ID of selector to change the styling of our section. So under our selectors, let's click on pound section. We've never used this selector before. We created it right when we got started, but we haven't used it. And I'm going to go to my background colors, and let's pick a background color. Maybe we'll use this orange, this sort of burnt orange color, and I'm going to click on that. And it's kind of okay. Not really sure if I like that. But let's look at another page. Let's look at our gallery page. Well, I can tell you right now, I don't want that on the gallery page. That's not really working for me at all. What about the media page where we have our video player? Nope, again, I kind of think this looks terrible. So I'm going to close this page, and Dreamweaver asked, do we want to save these changes, because it recognizes that this page is using this style rule to create this burnt kind of light orange background. So I say no, don't save the changes. Thank you. I'm going to close my gallery page, and we're again asked, do you want to save the changes? The answer is no. And then we have the history page with this color that really doesn't look very good at all. So I'm going to click on undo. So how do I create a different color just for this page? So the way we do it is we write a style rule, not in one of our CSS files, which every page reads that CSS file. We write a style rule inside of this page, just inside of this page, so this rule only loads when this page loads. And here's where we do this. We're going to scroll down. There's a couple different places we could do it. We could insert the style rule right next to our title, which is where by default Dreamweaver would put an inline style rule. But I'm going to be a little bit more selective, and I want to insert my style rule in this one place in the head that we have set aside for code that is unique to each page that we want to put in the head. Because we've used this before. We used this when we were working with our audio player, right? And we wanted to insert the CSS for our audio player. As you recall, if we're anywhere else in this grayed out zone and I click on the keyboard, nothing happens because all of this code is locked out. But if I put my cursor right past this instance begin editable, and before the end instance editable in this one area, I can actually start to insert code. This is where we inserted the code for our audio player. So I can hit the enter key, and I got a blank line. So this is what I'm going to type. I'm going to type the left pointing arrow, and then I'm going to start to type the word style, S-T-Y-L, and Dreamweaver fills in the word for me. So I'm just going to hit enter. Now I need to close this tag by typing the arrow that points to the right. Now I need to close this whole style rule. We have an opening tag, we need a closing tag. I'm going to type the arrow that points to the left. I'm going to type a /, and as soon as I do that, Dreamweaver filled in the rest of the text. It looked at it and said, you know, you've got an opening style tag. That means you must need a closing style tag. That's correct. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now, since we have this opening and closing style tag in the head of our document, this is going to be the place where Dreamweaver will write any style rules just for this page. So let's create a background color rule, okay? So I'm going to go to CSS Designer, and under my sources, this is the source I'm going to use this time. Just this style tag. It's that style. This style tag is the same thing as this style tag. So I'm going to select that. We don't need to worry about a media query because we have nothing in this style rule. We're just starting from ground zero. I'm going to add a selector, and the selector that I want to add is the one for the section. And by section I mean type the # SEC, and you can see Dreamweaver fills the rest of the content in for us. So I can just hit enter. Hit enter one more time. There we go. So look what happened. In my code view, I can see that Dreamweaver inserted a CSS style rule, #section, and then we have these two braces, and inside of these braces, Dreamweaver will write the style rules that I want to create. So I'm going to click on my background image property. Let me slide this up a little bit, and maybe we'll slide this down a little bit just to give myself a little bit more room. So I've got my background color. Let's pick a background color for our page. So I'm going to click on Set Background Color, and remember we did a couple variations on this purple color. This is the purple color that we got from Adobe Color CC, and then we made this version. It was like a very dark version of the same color, and we created a gradient in our header and in our footer. It was a very nice effect. So let's take this same purple color that we've worked with, and let's create another variation on it, like a super light version of it. So I'm going to push this. Do you want that light? Yeah, I'm going to push this all the way up to the top, so that we just get this very, very soft purplish color. And I like that. I'm going to go ahead and add this as a swatch in case I want to use it for something else. And now I'm going to hit enter. So we've now added a color to this page, and we're using the style rule for the page. If we open up another page, if I open up my media page and have a look at that, media page hasn't changed because this rule that we've created, it's only in effect just on this page. Now I like that, but I'm thinking it might be even better to have a background image. The color's good, but the background image might be even more interesting. So how do I add a background image to our site? I want to make sure that I'm working with my local style rule. This might be a little bit confusing. It looks like we have two style rules set here. Let's see, click here. Alright, and I'm going to go pull this down here. This fancy box margin, this is not the style rule that we want. It says fancy box margin defined under global. We want this style rule, okay, because it has our section selector in it. And I'm going to go to my background property. I don't need to get rid of my background color. If we add a background image, the background image will take priority over the background color. In fact, it's a good thing to have both a background image and a background color, because if for some reason your background image doesn't work, you can use the background color. Okay, so let's click on, if we want to add an image, we would use this URL and grab an image. Now I do have an image in mind to use. I'm going to go to Files, and I'm going to open up our Files panel again. And in my tutorial, I have an image here that says Mountain Background. So since I've been very good about keeping my images organized, I'm just going to drag that over to my images. We're going to close our files. I'm going to click here in my CSS Designer. You can see under background image we have URL, enter a file path. This is where we put in the file path for our image, or we could create a gradient. But we want to use an image. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click on my browse for image, browse for my folder. I need to click there one more time. And now Dreamweaver wants to know, where do I find this image? So I'm going to go to images, and let's see, I'm in my tutorial folder. I want to go to my images folder, and here it is, mountain background. Let's choose that image and say OK. And now I like this. Now we've got this nice background image. There does seem to be one problem, and that is our table is transparent every other row. The background color for our table is transparent. I would like to not have a table that's transparent in the background. There's a way to fix that, and the way to fix that is create a selector for the table. Our table, if we click on our table, let's click here on our table, okay, we can see that our table is a member of the class table. So let's write a selector just for this page. I'm going to add a new selector, and I'm going to type in period table. That's all we need is table, okay? And I'm going to go to my background color, and I'm going to choose a background color, and I'm going to choose that really nice light purple that we selected earlier and hit enter. There we go. So now looks pretty good. We've got this nice looking background pattern for our table. We managed to keep that color that we selected earlier. Let's open this up a little bit more so we can see a little bit more of our site. There is one weird thing going on here. You see this line on the right hand side? What on earth is that line all about? Well, here's what's happening. Our background image is not wide enough to cover the whole width of our web page. I can hit F4 on the keyboard to completely hide all my panels. And what's happened is the image starts here, goes to here, and then it's repeating. So we don't want our image to repeat. That actually doesn't look very good. We would just like our image to fill the whole screen. So how do we do that? I'm going to hit F4 again so I can see my panels. And we need to see our CSS designer. So for this page, for our background image, we can choose this option right here, which is background repeat. And where this little dot is, it says no repeat. So if I click on that, our background image is not repeating. Let's open up our page again. But what we're getting is we're getting that background color still showing through, right? We set that sort of soft purple background color. We want the image to fill this whole width, so we need to make one more change. We're going to go back over here. And when it comes to how does a background image fill the screen up, we have a couple choices. The two that we use quite a bit are cover and contain. Cover fills the whole width horizontally, and contain fills the whole width vertically. And you can see that's even worse, right? Because now the image is ending here. That's the original size of the image. And this is where the image ends here. We want the image to stretch all the way across horizontally. So rather than contain, we're going to choose cover. There we go. Now let's preview this in Chrome. Do you want to save changes? Yep. There we go. So now our history page looks a little bit more exciting. We've got some nice background colors here. The hovering effect is still in effect when we move our mouse over the rows. We still have that principle. We still have that property that we added when we were originally working on the table, and we have a nice background image. And our background image is going to scale, as you can see, to fill in. Now there are a wide range. There are several. We can resize when we're using a background image. There are several ways to size the background image, and there's a really good link to W3 School. It says a very good way that you can test out to see how your background image is going to resize. But this is going to take care of adding an interesting background image just to make our website a little bit, give it a little bit more visual flair.